This is the TRT Community Podcast, where we discuss all things testosterone.
What's going on, guys? I'm Brandon, founder of the TRT Community and host of All Things Testosterone. Today is, to my right is Ian.
Hello, Brandon.
Hello, Ian. Kevin is still out sick, mainly because we record 2 or 3 episodes in one day, but he's not here today. So it's just the two of us, and we are going to talk about... What are we talking about? Let me look at my phone.
Our feet are almost touching. That's what we can talk about.
That looks real cute on YouTube.
Hi, YouTube.
We're going to talk about finding a doctor, approaching your doctor if you already have one, but you don't quite agree with their protocol, what the TRT community can help with, that kind of thing. The TRT community being our Facebook group that can be found at www.facebook.com/group/TRT community. A lot of you guys join the group, and then you mentioned that you're a podcast listener, and I really appreciate that. I usually try to send a friend request so we can be BFFs, just because I kind of feel like if somebody listens to the podcast and then they join the group, they might care a little bit more than your average Facebook user that joins the group about what we have to say,
right?
Especially with like promises that clinics are coming and that kind of thing. So I usually shoot a friend request over so that they're notified whenever I post in the Facebook group.
Yes, thank you to our listeners. It's a lot of fun doing this, and we appreciate that you would take the time to listen to these.
Absolutely, and accept my friend requests. Yes, I want to be your friend.
Do it.
Matrix hormones. Those of you that haven't heard yet, until I hear bad things about them, we're going to keep talking about them. They treat nationwide, telemedically. I thought that 3 times of our skit would have been too much, so I'm just going to kind of generically talk
we
about
can mix it up a little bit.
Ken at Matrix Hormones is great. He's knowledgeable. His customer service is great. If you mention the podcast, they'll waive the $150 initiation fee, and you can find them at matrixhormones.com. I wonder if it would make it easier if I provided the phone number.
And don't let the fact that we trip up on the pronunciation of the name, both of us now.
That X is difficult. The phone number is 813-696-6721. But they will get you set up. And for those of you that asked, I didn't even realize, we talked about it on the last episode, I didn't even realize this was a question, but guys question how they're even going to get their blood work done through a telemedicine company. And they do send you to a lab local to your home address. So you'll go into the Quest Diagnostics or the LabCorp, they'll draw blood. Matrix will get those results, and they will provide treatment. It's above board, completely legal. So the reason that this episode kind of came about is kind of interesting. So I talked a few episodes ago, and I've already mentioned this to you, Ian, but we talked a few episodes ago about my practitioner not being willing to experiment, for me to use the compounded cream.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought I made it kind of clear. I think I made it kind of clear at the time that, the reason that I didn't think that she was just against it, although she did say, when I said, why not? She said, I haven't heard good things about it. But I think I was sick. I had pneumonia. She was more concerned with a lot of other things, and that was low on her priority list. So I did get an email from her this week that said, hey, if you still want to try the cream, blah, blah, blah. I'm always willing to learn new things. You do your research. And it made me think that even if her reasoning had been 100% completely that she hadn't heard good things about it, and that's why she was saying no, for her to come back and say that she's willing to try it, it just made me think that not everyone's got a doctor or a medical practitioner that is that humble, that willing to work with you, that willing to listen, that willing to be flexible and to bend.
It's encouraging,
for
sure.
Yeah, so it's nice to get that kind of communication from her. She's in Texas, and she actually treats Texas residents telemedically as well. So if you are in Texas, I recommend her also. She accepts insurance. She's just a primary care nurse practitioner that happens to specialize in hormones, and I've been using her office for 5 or 6 years and love her and Kevin. Kevin doesn't do telemedicine, but her name's Rachel Lyle. She is at Integrative Medical in Coppell, Texas. They have a website. I'm sure it's integrativemedical.com, but she's really great. So all that to say, looks like I'm going to be starting that compounded cream soon. So
very exciting.
Excited about that.
We'll get an episode going in the future.
Absolutely.
You applying it in front of us.
It is a scrotal application. So that's weird, and we would immediately get our YouTube channel shut down. I'm sure that the podcast would be just fine, but YouTube not so much.
What's up, Rachel Lyle?
Oh, she did say some things in her email that led me to believe that she's a listener of the podcast, which is really cool. I don't remember if I mentioned on the podcast or not, a little humble brag here, but whenever we partners met with our legal team to try to open up our own clinic, the attorney was like, "Yeah, I've listened to your podcast before," and I'm like, "You're a 60-year-old attorney man that
works in downtown Dallas.
Yeah, you have a high-rise office, but somehow I'm a quasi celebrity in your office." So that was really, really cool. Gives me a big head. So finding a doctor is challenging, and we've talked about that before, and the things that you can do to find a doctor. One, that's kind of what the TRT community does. That's the reason that I started it, is so that we could kick ideas around about treatment. And then once we had enough patients in there, it's patients helping patients. So we've got a lot of guys that have really great doctors, and they talk about who they are, where they are, what they do, how much they charge, that kind of thing. So you can join the Facebook group, facebook.com/group/TRT community. And a lot of guys come straight in and say, "Hey, where can I find a doctor?" And
looking for recommendations.
North Carolina, yeah. And there's a lot of people in there, and they can help. Amy Perlman, off the top of my head, in Iowa. She's actually an MD and a urologist. Interviewed her on the podcast at one point. She'd be great. So that's the kind of knowledge that you get, and not from me, but like that state just popped out. But like, yeah, there's guys from every state, and they can help you find a doctor. What I do want to say is that if you don't want to join the Facebook group, if you're not on Facebook, if you refuse to email myself to ask where you can find a doctor, and you want to do it on your own, I would recommend that you Google compounding pharmacies. Don't Google TRT doctors near me. Google compounding pharmacies near you, and then call one of them and ask for a list of providers that prescribe testosterone. And they do this all the time. They'll email you a downloadable Excel document with a list of doctors.
It's not against HIPAA.
No,
it's
it's the doctors' names. Yeah. And these are doctors that use that pharmacy to prescribe testosterone. So that's kind of an indicator that they are willing to prescribe testosterone.
Yeah, when you Google those things, back to that, I saw a post about a week ago. A guy was asking, is this a legitimate website? And the website, or the provider, whoever, the clinic, and to me it screamed scam or fake, but it was like that. It was literally named Cypionate TRTHCG.com. It was like Cypionate Testosterone HCG.com, and you go there and you're looking, you look for, where are they located, who's on their staff, and it's really just a bunch of information and a phone number for you to call to get set up. And it's like, run as far as you can from that. That's they're just there to take your money.
It is easy to find doctors that don't accept insurance, so I'm kind of talking about doctors that do. I mean, there are TRT clinics everywhere now. A lot of guys are uncomfortable with telemedicine in general, I guess, but these are for doctors that actually accept insurance.
They don't want to see anything. They just want to ask you some questions.
Yeah. So what about red flags? What would you say are the most relevant red flags that should kind of set some alarms off in a new patient's brain when they're starting TRT?
The ones that insist upon you coming into the office for a shot.
Yeah, that's a problem.
They won't release, they won't release you to do it at home. It's once a week, and maybe it's too small or too large of a dose. Things like that.
They're charging you for weekly visits, and if they're accepting insurance, they're still charging someone. So that just kind of tells me that their main goal is not patient care, but it's weekly income. Right. Whether it's through insurance or through the patient, they're wanting to get paid.
Sort of that
week.
Residual. For them.
Yeah. What
What
about
else? What else would you say?
injection schedules that are greater than 7 days? For example, a doctor says inject 200 milligrams testosterone cypionate every 14 days, every 28 days, every 30 days, every 10 days. Those
Oof.
are all problems for me.
Yeah.
Cypionate has a half-life of 7 to 8 days, which means that you really don't need to go beyond 7 days, or you're just kind of in this roller coaster of high testosterone, high testosterone, low, and you never get balanced and optimized.
What about a doctor that maybe insists on trying pellets first? We get a lot of those questions.
Yeah, if you know, I kind of want to say that unless you have to talk your doctor into it over the course of a couple of office visits, if they're willing to do it and recommend them, I'd probably run away. I think that I guess that pellets have a place. I've heard guys talk about having offshore jobs and for whatever reason not being able to inject. So, if you want to try pellets, go for it.
They
But
should have bathrooms on those.
yeah, I don't.
but
I've had more than one.
certainly can't speak to that experience.
Right. More
with
than
an
one
office job.
person has mentioned it. So, there's got to be something to it, but I don't understand it. But if you have to do pellets, you can give it a shot, but often what you get is a decent
Inconsistent.
first
levels.
month, and then second month is high and third month is low, but you're stuck with that for, I don't know, 6 months or whatever. And they're expensive. And, my theory is that these doctors are, I know that they're charging a procedure fee because they're injecting these pellets into your skin. So they're, it's a moneymaker, and it's not the most effective way. I won't call anyone a crook, but it's not the most effective way to administer testosterone.
Another one, we've talked about this multiple times, is just what labs they're looking at. If they're only taking total and free,
Yeah.
maybe that should be a red flag for you, because there's a whole lot more on the hormone panel that they should be looking at that goes into
Yeah. A lot of them
this process.
are trying to get you treated as cheaply as they can for you. But really, it's in your best interest to check a lot of things, because you kind of want to know why you're low, not just that you are low. You want to know why you're low, so that and other things, so that you can, and we've talked about this at length in episodes in the past, but you want to be able to use your pre-TRT numbers to help you dial in post-TRT. What about I keep looking at my list. I don't have any. They're not on there.
Cool.
What about doctors that prescribe testosterone that is compounded with an aromatase inhibitor? You seen those?
I haven't. I've seen guys talk about it, but it's alarming, because leading off with that, it should not be the course of treatment. It should be, okay, let's see how you respond to this exogenous testosterone, and then we'll test your estradiol levels down the road, and we'll see where you're at. Like,
Yeah. If you ever need an aromatase inhibitor, it should be down the road after symptoms arise. It should probably be a short-term fix while you continue to try to dial in your protocol.
the earliest, like 8 to 12 weeks after starting treatment, maybe,
yeah.
right?
But these
Is that
guys,
fair to say?
Yeah, that it's compounded in their vial with their testosterone from the beginning is bad news.
Because that has its own side effects and can crash your estrogen and stuff.
Yep. So that said, some people are fairly insistent that, my doctor's doing some of these things, but I really like them for whatever reason, and I'd like to continue to work with them. And that's fine. Maybe it's their primary care that they've seen since they were 20, who knows? You can definitely approach your doctor, and although it's not really what happened with Rachel Lyle, that's kind of why I mentioned it, because I knew that she said no mostly because she had priorities and I was sick. But had she said no because she just didn't think it was good, she was willing to come back and say, hey, you do good research. I'm willing to give it a shot. I always want to continue learning and whatnot. So there are definitely doctors out there, and you can have that conversation. And it's really going to be up to your doctor. You're not responsible for how your doctor feels about information that may be difficult for them to hear.
Right.
You're responsible for delivering it. But you can just say, hey, there's a lot of research out there that says that, X, Y, and Z should be done differently than what you've told me to do. Would it be okay if we did it this way? And if they get mad and they think that they know everything and they're prideful about it, then maybe they're not the doctor for you. But if they're willing to say, yeah, it's been a while since I've kept up on the research studies, and I think you may be right. Thanks for bringing this in. Give it a shot. Go for it.
Yeah, be willing to give feedback, pushback. I mean, not in an aggressive way. Just ask questions that they might not be thinking about. What would you feel about one more, I guess, red flag about guys that are out there and looking at treatment? You see this question a lot. Is this amount worth it? I would say treatment where maybe it's with a TRT clinic that's a monthly cash pay or whatever. If it's north, help me out here. If it's north of like $200 a month, you're getting ripped off.
For sure. There are plenty of TRT clinics that'll be far below 200. And you can get your own stuff. Like you have the links on the Testosterone Podcast webpage of all the supplies that are not that much money, and really all you're looking at is office visit, labs. Mm-hmm. Your office visits should be every 2 to 3 months, maybe in 4 months if you're dialed in. Yeah. Get on GoodRx and get your testosterone cypionate that way, or whatever you use. I should have put that on the top 10 list of things that TRT patients need. The GoodRx app.
Yeah.
Didn't do it. Yeah.
It's great because your insurance. We've said this before. Insurance can limit the quantity that you get at one time, so they can say you can only have 5 meals at a time, or whatever it may be. So
keeping you every time you go to the pharmacy, a traditional pharmacy, to fill a testosterone prescription, it seems to be there's an issue. They want to give you a smaller vial,
or you can only get so much per month. Things like that.
So if I can go every 10 weeks or every 15 weeks instead of once a month, I'm all for it.
Paying in the $40 range for a 10 ml vial of cypionate.
Now, I'm taking an Anthate, which is only manufactured in 5 ml. So I do have to get the 5 ml vials. But cypionate comes in 10 for sure. Cool.
Thank you for listening to the TRT Community Podcast. You can find us online at facebook.com/groups/TRT Community.